Hey, what's up, guys? Tony here, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tony. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about parenting and guns. Okay, so what I want to do is I actually want to sort of extrapolate my ideas from that article that I had mentioned, the Pixel Enemy article, because there are some things in there that I think are worth talking about. And one of them is just this idea of parenting and guns, because I saw the comment section, and I can't tell if the comments were written by Europeans or not. Because I didn't bother to check, and I don't think I was able to check. But the thing is, though, is there was this idea that the parents were bad parents because they bought an 11-year-old, or no, how old was he? Like a 12-year-old, a .22 rifle. Like your bad parents for buying your son a rifle. So let me go back. This article that I had mentioned is about a kid who, I think he was 13 at the time, who had shot and killed his mother with a .22 rifle because she took away his copy of Call of Duty. Doesn't say which version, but I'm probably sure it was Modern Warfare 3, because that game would drive anyone to kill. But it's an incredibly sad story, because, you know, it's such a frivolous thing that no one should be killed because, you know, they're parenting, they're doing their job as a parent. It's much the same way, like yesterday I tweeted out the 17-year-old kid who had sucker punched a referee because he wrote him a yellow card. The guy, you know, this referee wrote this kid a yellow card, and kid just sucker punched him in the side of the head, and the referee starts like vomiting blood and, you know, goes into a coma and then dies. You're like, holy crap, you know, you're like, what's wrong with this generation of kids? You know, they're just like so violent, so prone to violence. And of course, the automatic go-to, and that was the main crux of the article, is sort of that hint at video game violence. Video games are making our kids more violent, which I don't believe it's true, and I'll probably end up tackling that one in a bigger video with some other commentators, just because it would be nice to get, you know, multiple voices involved in such a big topic. But just for right now, I just want to look at guns and parenting, because there was this sort of idea that bad parenting equaled the fact that they bought their son a .22 rifle. And now I'm a gun owner, but I'm not really, you know, I'm not one of those NRA types. I'm not like, yeah, you know, Second Amendment, you know, forever. No one can touch the Second Amendment, because I'm very much for the universal background checks that did not pass. And I'm definitely not afraid of, you know, the federal government coming to steal all of our guns. You know, the government's not trying to come and take all of our weapons, as a lot of the more conservative people in the United States like to believe. But going back on this topic that I want to get onto, I think the failing of the parents was not in the fact that they had bought their son a .22 rifle, because there's plenty of people who buy their kids rifles. I mean, a friend of mine, Daniel, he's a filmmaker. When I go visit him, he would have this little .22 rifle in his truck, just sitting on this like custom-made rest. And they have this huge farm just north of Santa Barbara by about 45 minutes or so. It's just a huge farm. And it was normal. It was a normal thing for him to have a firearm at such a young age. I mean, he was driving a car and shooting squirrels before he was, you know, 16. You know, that was the norm for him. And I was kind of like, well, that's a little weird, because I wasn't really introduced to firearms until, gosh, I think I was probably 18 or something like that when I first went to the range with my father. And my dad was a Marine. You know, he was a Marine. He was around firearms all the time. But we as kids weren't. I mean, we were around play guns and, you know, rubber band guns and, you know, other things like that. And BB guns. My grandpa had given us BB guns when we were kids, and we would, you know, shoot cans and I shot a bird out of the sky. You know, I'm not particularly proud of that, and I felt terrible after it, because I shot this bird and it like flopped down on the ground. I was like, like, oh man, it made me feel really terrible. And so that kind of put me in that, like, oh, that's not right, you know? I had that one instance where I was just fucking around and I shot a bird and it flopped to the ground. And I don't think I killed it. I fucked its day up pretty good, because it was like, fuck you, asshole. It was like twitching. I kind of laugh now, but it is a very sad thing. And so I feel I have a lot of remorse for that. So, but on the flip side, though, is I own firearms now. I have two weapons. I've got an M1 Garand and a M1911. That's a 1911 from 1918. And my M1 is dated to 1943. So I have these two historic weapons, and the main reason why I own them is because I like historic weapons. I fire them as well. They both fire. They shoot beautifully. But I own them more because they're historic weapons than I have this need to own firearms. And the one thing that I was taught by everybody that I know, I know police officers, I know military personnel, obviously, since my father was a career Marine. But the one common thing is that if you have a firearm and you have ammunition, those things go locked up. They get locked up in a storage, right in a gun locker whenever you're not using them. There's no questions about it. Like, if you have a gun, you put it in the locker. And if you don't have a locker, then you get a lock for your trigger. And that's how you keep these weapons safe. You don't keep ammo and a fireable weapon in the same household, or really, say, in the same room at the same time, because that is a recipe for disaster. So basically, my point now, getting around to it, is that the parents aren't bad parents because they bought their kid a .22 rifle. The parents are bad parents because they allowed him to keep the ammunition and an unlocked rifle. Now, if he had a lock, but he had the key to it, then what the hell's the point of the lock? The point is to make the weapon safe. So it's really, it's a sad story. It is a really sad story that the mother was shot and killed by her son because, she took away his copy of Call of Duty and he went into this, rage. Obviously, the kid has got some sort of mental problems. But it was an avoidable situation if the kid didn't have possession of the rifle. It's not the rifle. That's my main point is it's not the rifle. That's not the problem. The problem is the fact that the parents were very bad at handling it. They didn't show it the proper respect and had, taken the rifle away from the kid whenever they weren't shooting. Usually dad takes that stuff away. So that's where I see the problem is the bad parenting is not in the fact that they actually own the rifle, that they bought the rifle for the kid. The bad parenting comes and because they didn't care for the rifle, they didn't care for the ammunition like they should have. The kid should have never had ammunition in his room, and the rifle should have been locked up, properly locked up. If not in a gun locker, then it had to have a trigger guard on it, a trigger lock on it, and definitely the ammo needed to not be in the same room as that rifle. So that's my take on it. I'd like to know what your take is on this situation. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll talk to you guys later.